What is up, sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. I'm Jeff Hartman. Joining me is Pez. Before we do that, a quick call to action. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. We do appreciate it. It helps getting our feed out there in front of more people. And also, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe button so that you don't miss anything as it pertains to the world of sports with Fans First Sports Network. With that being said, welcome Pez to the show. What's up, Pez? How's it going?
Well, Jeff, we got our Eagles green going. Saquon Barkley coming in, another chip in our pile of goods in Philadelphia, looking like a Super Bowl run, and our odds already jumped. We went from plus 1,800 to win the bowl. We're down to plus 1,600. I think in Philly we got nothing but rainbows ahead of us, Jeff. We're going to be chasing the Leprechaun's gold all month, all the way up until next February when we're winning that Super Bowl.
Well, I don't know about that, but still, I mean, you think about it, and you also lost some veteran leadership. Jason Kelsey retires, Fletcher Cox retires, so we'll see how that goes. I do want to ask you because I was going to bring this up because I knew you were going to be wearing that hideous Kelly Green stuff.
Yes, sir.
In terms of future bets, I mean, when do you think is a smart time to play it? Like, you played it early? You say you put $20 on the Birds every year to win the
Yes, sir.
Super Bowl. You got the better odds because after free agency and then the draft, they're going to change. Is there a time that you say like this is the time to play your future bets?
Well, it depends on your organization. I think we're going to actually pick up some more players. I think now, last week was the time for the Birds. I think now is the time we might pick up an extra third receiver. We might
Yeah.
might strengthen up the linebacker or secondary core. Uh, Currently, San Fran's most favored, Kansas City too. Kansas City might add some players. I mean, they might have some money that they can throw in to maybe pick up a receiver or two, which they desperately need. So I think it's always good to get your money in early, unless you're betting some totals and some over unders, which we'll get into a little bit more deeper into the spring. And quarterbacks are shuffling, and then running backs are shuffling. Probably the big chips have fallen, but there still could be some veterans out there that move. So sooner than later, I think is always a better play when you're putting in Super Bowl bet.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so let's talk about our picks. Last week, we were diving into basketball. We had a college pick and we had an NBA pick. The college pick, UNC Duke, that's the best rivalry in college basketball. You said take the Tar Heels -4 at Duke, and they pulled it out for you, Pez. What do you think about that game?
Great game, Jeff. And it panned out how we thought it would. Super close game. In terms of Duke Carolina, maybe not as close. I think the line probably moved to 5 by the end. So hopefully people got it in early at 4.5. Two great teams. I mean, that rivalry never gets old, and it's shocking. I mean, we were talking 50 points maybe have separated those two teams' games and throughout history. And I think two teams that could be making a deep run into this tournament, well coached, battle tested, probably just as nerve wracking as an NCAA championship would be Duke Carolina in that game, and pretty awesome to watch. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and that's what college basketball is all about, right there.
And it's a toss up. We've known this. We've talked about this the last few shows about how with college basketball, you just don't know what you're going to get. You think you have a beat on it. You think you have a good line, and next thing you know, that top 10 team gets taken down by an unranked opponent. Now, this was not the case with UNC Duke, but are you starting to get a little better feel for college basketball heading into March Madness?
It's going to be tough, Jeff, and we're going to be talking about it at toward the second half of the show here. We're going to rely on the data and the history of the tournament. I think the tournament is probably a more logical and database betting situation than the regular season. Well, I counted, I think it was 4 or maybe 3 top 10 seeded nationally ranked teams this week lost to unseeded or unranked teams outright this week. I mean,
Wow.
it's just been shocking numbers this year for teams ranked in the top 10 losing outright to unranked teams, which we never used to see. That would be a month-long story, and now they're just kind of accepting it. Teams aren't even dropping out of the top 10 when that happens a lot. We have an incredible amount of parity. Going into the tournament and championship this week, we're going to kind of cream will rise to the top as always, and we're going to have a more data-based situation going into the tournament than we have. Just you're just hoping that teams show up, and the NBA is not too much different. But having said that, NBA we're down to about 15 games left. Playoffs are kind of beginning for a lot of teams, so we should start seeing things straighten out and data kind of coming forward with making things look a little bit more logical like the NFL.
Well, and with the NBA system and the way that you laid it out perfectly last week, where you talked about how these players getting the days off is just,
Yeah.
well, it can ruin your bets. But when you get down the stretch, everyone's going to be playing if you're making a playoff push. Now, if a team is done and they're not going to be in the postseason, then they're probably going to sit most of their players. But you're going to need the LeBron Jameses to play. You're going to need all these guys that might be getting some days off. And I say days is a plural. During the regular season. So we did bet an NBA game last week, the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets.
Oof.
Celtics were giving points, the Nuggets win outright. Spoiled the
Unreal.
bet, Pez.
They had a rough West Coast trip, Jeff, and we'll be talking about it. I think that's why they're a good bet now. That's a team that doesn't go into long slumps, and West Coast trips are tough, and the home team advantage is still a big thing in the NBA, and we're gonna be looking at that when we look at our two NBA plays this week. Home is where the heart is, Jeff. Going on the road, going to California, these guys have, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. They're probably out partying. You can't control, adults, and yeah, it's a team, and but it's not like high school and college where you're locking doors.
Right.
Who knows what these guys are doing? They're at the Oscar parties, they're at the Vanity Fair party with Beyonce, or who knows who they're hanging out with, Jeff. I wish I was there. I'm currently in a airport in Dubai. I don't know if I should talk about this, Jeff. Coming back from Monte Carlo, big high stakes poker tournament, unsanctioned. So if I'm looking over my shoulder, it's because I just want to get out of here with my bag of money. I hope this isn't bug, Jeff, but they're nice people here in Dubai. So that's why we have the institutional background. I'm in a supposed smokers private lounge. So I don't smoke, so hopefully there are no smoke detectors or anything going off in here, Jeff. But if I start winking SOS calls, please call the authorities, Jeff, or
We
send
will.
call some of my guys in South Philly. They know what to do.
All right, so let's take a look now at our picks this week. We have two NBA games. We're going to talk about conference tournaments, and then we're going to touch on some golf bets at the Players Championship down at TPC in Sawgrass. I've got a lot of information there for my own picks, but let's start with the NBA 76ers and the Bucks. The Bucks, that line is trending 6-7 points. Which way are you leaning in terms of Sixers or the Bucks giving the points?
So Bucks should be laying 6, maybe 7. And this is just eyeballing it based on lines that we've had in the past this season. Again, it's tough to say. It could be guys sitting. It's tomorrow, Thursday night game, so we're doing this about a day ahead of time. I'm not a fan of the process, Jeff. I never was. I think intentionally losing is a horrible, horrible strategy in any sport at any level. The Sixers did that for a decade. It did not pan out. The likes of Ben Simmons and some other first picks of the draft that just didn't pan out. And when you encourage losing, being okay, bad situation. So, having said that, maybe I have a little emotion behind this bet. My home team Sixers that I used to love, I think do not have the juice to beat the Bucks. Bucks coming off a 1-3 California swing. They need to hold on to the 1 seed in the Central Division. They hold a half-game lead over the Cavs. 15 games to go, roughly. They are 25-7 at home this season, straight up. The Bucks and the Sixers suck, Jeff. 4-6 in the last 10. They're putting a JV lineup out there. Joel Embiid hurt again. Milwaukee. This is something else I like going down the stretch, Jeff. Like we've talked about, regular season. Some of these guys, coaches even, they look at this as a training situation where half the teams in the league they can put out their second string and win. So record to them and not as important. Milwaukee only 28-37 against the spread this season, coming in at a horrible 43%. That's got to change. That has got to improve as we come down the stretch. Milwaukee, one of the most talented teams in the league, maybe the best lineup in the East, maybe in the league. And the Sixers, 34-31 against the spread. They stink, Jeff. Most of those wins were when Joel was still playing. I don't even know half of their lineup right now. So I'm banking going down the stretch here on the NBA. That thing's starting to situate. Numbers starting to come back to normal where they should be. I love the Bucks in this situation. Doc Rivers, good coach. He knows the Sixers really well. He knows the losers on that team and what they like and what they don't like having put up against them. So big fan tomorrow, Thursday night. Bucks laying 6 or 7. Should take care of business easy against the Sixers, who I like to call the saboteurs. Once you start saboting, Jeff, sabotage becomes a part of you. And I don't think anybody in that Sixers lineup is a real winner. Tobias Harris, even Joel Embiid, guy's never been fit, Jeff. If your star comes in with a big belly, then the rest of the guys are like, what the hell am I working for? So we are off the Sixers. We are big on the Bucks. I like their dedication. I like their whole lineup, and should be a good win tomorrow night against the Sixers.
It's like James Harden when he showed up for, I forget which team he was on. He's bounced around the league so much, but he showed up, and I mean, he looked like he had a beer belly. He looked like he'd rather be sitting around at a bar watching football. I'm like, this guy's a professional athlete, and he's like, I'll work it out as the season goes on. What are we doing?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Work it out. What are you working out during games? We're betting on these games, Jeff. These guys should be fit.
Because you would think. But all right, let's go to another NBA game. The Celtics, same spread that we're thinking for Thursday night. I think this is a Thursday night game. Celtics -6 or 7 going up against the Phoenix Suns. I'm assuming you like the Celtics considering what you said already about how you think they're a team that's going to bounce back from that loss to Denver.
Same situation, Jeff, coming off a road swing. They lost a couple out in California. Last week, they were given 5.5 in Phoenix. So I'm saying 6, 7, maybe 7.5. I might jump to at home hosting Phoenix. Phoenix, worst in the league, except for, I believe, Atlanta against the spread, 25-38. Phoenix only covering 39% of the time, even worse on the road. And that's a team I don't count on improving too much. I think we're seeing their best ball throughout the year. Celtics, dominant at home, 29-3 straight up. Are we going to get a couple extra threes, a couple extra buckets from Boston trying to rebound? I think we will. I think this is a gimme. Team. That team has pride. They play hard every game. You don't see guys sitting in that organization. And, we're looking at a trend here. Are we betting top-seeded teams going down the stretch to win the championship? Absolutely. Like you said, Jeff, some of these guys, if you know you're not in the playoffs or you're going to be like the last seed, they're booking trips. They're renting out strip clubs for the weekend. Hundreds of millions of dollars. James Harden, when he was in Philly, the day before the game, you'd see him in Atlanta. You'd see him in Vegas till like 3 in the morning. You'd be like, what the hell? Which you start to question a little bit the legitimacy of gambling some of these games. You don't know what these guys are doing. So I like Celtics and I like the Bucks to rebound rough travel weeks and trying to get back on pace to roll into the playoffs and have those top seeds and come rolling in to try and win rings. I mean, this is what it's all about in that league still for maybe about 7 or 8 teams. The other ones, they're packing their bags.
So for those that are keeping score at home, Milwaukee and Boston are who we're riding this week in the NBA. And with college, they're getting ready for conference tournaments. ACC tournaments, one of the biggest events outside of the March Madness tournament. And you're kind of thinking, I would kind of stay away from those. What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, it's going to be tough for us to forecast what's going to happen, these conference tournaments through the weekend. I do like Carolina to win the ACC. I like Arizona to win out west their tournament, but it's tough, Jeff. And, for some of these teams, the pressure is if we don't win, we're not going to get in. I like the Vermont Catamounts to win. I believe they're playing New Hampshire. But I might be wrong about that, but they're in their conference championship. The winner gets in. It's winner go home. So the tournament's kind of beginning for some teams. Other teams, Kansas. They 6, 7 games this year. They've mailed it in. They know they're getting in the tournament. Duke, Carolina, they're in the tournament. So it's tough to forecast which game, for the weekend would be a solid play. And I think these are the ones you watch, you do your research, you see who's healthy, you see who's hot. Teams that are hot tend to stay hot in the month of March in college hoops. And I like Duke and Carolina right now. I think they're both playing pretty hot. I like Arizona, even though they had a couple stumbles. I think that's a hot team going forward as well. Maybe Gonzaga, maybe some of those West Coast teams, they can go. But Houston, they look like a team that's going to be tough to beat going down the stretch here. And so we got this week, do our homework, watch and see, and then we're going to get back in and have some plays coming next week for Thursday, Friday, and then we'll see what happens with the second round. Lots of upsets out there, Jeff. We have a ton of data on brackets as well, if we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Brackets should be done before we have our show come out again. We don't know the teams exactly seeded yet, Jeff, but in terms of gambling, it shouldn't really matter. There are some data-based strategies in making these brackets. And when you're making a bracket, you shouldn't be betting the team that you like the best. You shouldn't be betting the college you went to. Maybe put in 2 brackets then. You should be betting on data and on history. We've had 38 tournaments with 64 teams. Over those 38 tournaments, we've had a considerable amount of upsets, and we've got some matchups where the upsets are way more likely to happen with more frequency and based on history than other situations when you have seeds against each other. When we talk about an upset, we're looking at upsets as 5 different numbers in between seeds. So an 8, a 9 beating an 8 is not an upset in my opinion. When you have, a 2 going up against a 10, that would be an upset. You have a 12-5, you have 11-6. Those are upsets that we're looking at, and that's kind of the upsets that we look at in the gambling world. Over those 38 tournaments where we've had 64 teams, there is an average of 8 to 9 upsets a tournament. And some of them as high as 14 times we've seen this. We've had a couple where it was in single digits, but I don't think that's going to happen this year, Jeff. We might see 15 or more upsets of five different numbers between seeds upsetting each other, where the lower seed is going to upset that higher seed. Over history, over these 38 years, the 11/6 seed is the number one upset, whatever you want to call it, bracket buster situation. 58 times the 11th seed has beaten the 6th seed in round one. That's a 38% percentage, Jeff. That's pretty good odds. So you're going to have an 11/6 seed in every one of your bracket, on all 4 regions on your bracket. Maybe picking 2 of them might not be a bad situation. 12 upsetting the 5 seed has happened 53 times, 35% of the time. So 11/6 and 12/5. I mean, you're looking, 3.5, almost 4 out of 10 times that's going to happen. Pretty good situation. 13/4, we're dropping down to 32 times, 21%. I like 15/2. 15/2's happened 11 times. I mean, you figure about 1 out of 3 tournaments or so, you're going to have a 15/2. And then 16/1, I don't know if I could say that's a good solid bet, Jeff. It's only happened 2 times, and it's been recent, I know. So I think 11/6 and 12/5, you got to have at least one of those on your sheet that's going to be an upset. And especially this year, when I was talking about it with the Sling Man, one of my betting partners here, when you get to 11, you get 12 seeds, you might have a team who's very good, who won their conference, but they're not a nationally known team. The nationally known teams and those conferences are going to get some of these higher seeds. So maybe not as big as an upset. And every once in a while, in the betting world, you'll see an 11 who's favored over a 6. And in that situation, tough to call an upset, but yeah. In that situation, we got to jump on that. So do your homework. I would look at 11 and 12s, look at their numbers, pick 1 or 2, maybe even go big, pick 3, or maybe you pick 3 times that that's going to happen. And that's a strong possibility this year. Carrying us into the second round, Jeff, we've got even greater numbers. Teams seeded 7 or 10 have upset a 2 seed 46 times in 38 tournaments. So we're averaging 1.2 times a tournament, a 7 or 10 seeds beating a 2 seed. Shocking number, Jeff. And this is the big one. The 2 seed got blown out. My bracket, they rip it up. Dick Vitale rips things up, throws it all over the place. So I love 2 seeds losing. It's kind of a gambler's secret. We used to all look at everything on the internet now, Jeff, so everybody knows this stuff. So 7/2 has happened 27 times. That the 7 seed is upset 2 times. 10/2, 19 times. So anytime you see a 10 or a 7, you should have 1 of those as an upset on your bracket. You're going to have 4. There's going to be 2. Well, I mean, theoretically, you're going to have 2 seed against a 7 or 10 4 times. I love picking this one. It's one that changes the entire dynamic. 11/3, not bad numbers. That has also happened 20 times. Big possible. If you want to throw in maybe a money line bet here, Jeff, because, the spread, you're going to get your even money or close to. 8 upsetting a 1 seed has happened 19 out of 38 tournaments. So half of the tournaments, we've seen an 8 seed take a 1 seed out on the weekend, second game of the tournament. I love that. As a gambler, maybe you throw in a couple plays next week. The 8 seed taking out the 1 seed on the money line. Your odds should be great. Your money should be great. And on a bracket, you're putting your $5 or $10 in, or if you're a high roller, maybe 100. Probably at 8 versus 1 is a good bet this year. Maybe even 2 8 versus 1s, where an eight's taken down a 1 seed, might be a solid bet, considering the top 10 are below. They're below 50% winning straight up, Jeff. So I love 8 versus 1 this year. I think it's a huge, huge number. And I think that is something that, if you're going to win your bracket, you're going to win some money gambling, you really got to take a look at. 12 against 4, 13 times has happened. And the rest of the time, I don't think those numbers are even worth even talking about, Jeff. We're getting into some skinny numbers there. So 7 versus 2 in the second round, 8 versus 1 in the second round. I love them. First round, let's look at 11, 12, and 13 seeds. Big, big times where they're going to be upsetting higher seeds. And I think this year, we could look at a lot of these and maybe even bet in a higher frequency than we normally would on brackets and gambling. And I think that it's going to be a fun tournament. Upsets are great. They get all the attention. You might have a 3-guy team with 2 guys. You might have teams that only sub 1 or 2 times a game. Those are fun teams to watch. I'm looking forward to it next week, Jeff. Big time tournament this year.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And the brackets, like you said, they'll be filled out by the time we record again next week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about this from a lot of different perspectives next week. So make sure you check that out. But let's finish the show up with some golf. I was thinking about this the other morning was if you're a gambler that doesn't like the day-to-day, the hockey, the basketball, the baseball coming up when that season officially kicks off, then you should be looking at golf in the off season of football, where it's all week. You get time to prepare. You get to look at numbers. You get to look at analytics. How do players play? How are they playing going into the tournament? And then you have a weekend. And not only that, people that have never gambled on golf, there are a lot of really fun bets out there, especially for big tournaments like the Players Championship coming up this weekend down in Florida, TPC Sawgrass, one of the most famous courses in the world, number 17, the Island Green particularly. Pez, you have some long shots here for the Players. Who you like?
Well, if we're going to put in some straight up bets, Jeff, you might as well try and make your money. I mean, there's 10 guys we could throw names out: Scheffler, Spieth, Tom. I mean, these guys, They win. We're not, you're not waking up and going, that's shocking. I look for guys that have been playing well, that have potential to win these tournaments. And this one, the Florida swing, I mean, there's water on every hole. There's alligators on these holes, Jeff. I mean, Happy Gilmore, his coach, Apollo Creed, he lost his hand down there. So Chubbs, I believe his name was.
Chubbs Peterson.
You got to stay in the fairway. You got to hit greens. It's going to be windy. I mean, we saw it this past week. It was windy as hell in Florida. So I love Jason Day, plus 6,000 to win the tournament. He's played 6 tournaments. He's made 5 cuts. I believe he's got 3 top 10s. A course that's made for a guy like this. That guy's a fairway finder, great iron player, terrific short game, which is, for the Players Championship, which some of us would call the 5th major. Great game for this course. Second guy, I think the future of the PGA. We lose this guy to live, we're in big trouble. South Korean kid, Tom Kim, 21 years old, already has 3 wins under his belt, plus 9,000. His start to his season has been great. I think his best finish this year is a 24. He's still racked up, I believe it's $600,000-$700,000, which isn't bad. He just hasn't cracked back into the top 10. I think he's going through a little bit of a body change, trying to get a little bit more fit. The guy had a little bit of a round mound, Charles Barkley, to him. So Tom Kim will win a major soon, Jeff. The kid's got power. The kid's got balls. I mean, he is not afraid of anything. He's the guy last year that walked into the mud to get his ball in the tournament, went chest deep in the mud. I mean, the guy's a little bit of a wild card, which I think golf needs a little bit. Not afraid of anything. You got to have balls of steel to win this Players Championship. You get to that 17th, that Island Green, my heart starts beating when I'm watching it. I mean, there's more water than anything on the screen. And I think this kid, if he's striking the ball like he can, and we're talking Tiger Woods iron play, Scheffler type of iron play, then forget about it. This guy, going to win a major. We're going to be looking to bet him a lot this year, as long as his form's good and he stays healthy. But it's kind of hard not to talk about the glaring reality, Jeff. If Scotty Scheffler is a below average putter, he's going to win by 5 shots every week. Yeah. Phenomenal golfer. I mean, he putted decently this past week. I mean, every ball, he's putting shots 8 feet or closer every green. I mean, is going to be tough to beat every week. And, Scheffler sometimes goes on these lightning hot runs. And, hopefully for golf, maybe this is one of them. Tough to bet against him. But I love Day and Kim. I think both of those guys are going to be top 10 guys for sure.
Last week, Scotty Scheffler in his final round at Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, inside 10 feet, went 16 for 16. He did not miss a putt inside 10 feet. He switched to the mallet putter. That's been a big thing on the golf scene. But, I've got some plays for the players as well. Notice Tiger Woods isn't even in the field. I can stand by my comments that he's probably not going to win another tournament in the rest of his career. But still, here we go. Let's do long odds first. I'm going to give you the long shot winner for the player, someone that's done it already in his career. Ricky Fowler, 15,000 plus 15,000. Put a little bit of money on Ricky Fowler. If he catches lightning, you never know. He barely made the cut last week, but he
lives down there,
plays well.
Right? I mean, he lives there. I mean, the guy won last year. Another great course for that guy. And I love Ricky. That's one of my top golfers. I think golf worldwide is great when Ricky's playing well.
I agree. Now, if you want my bet, I could say Rory or Scotty Scheffler. That's boring. Victor Hovland plus 2,500. That's another guy I really like. Super consistent. Really great ball striker. Now, they have some fun bets, though, too. If all three of these players finish in the top 10, it's plus 6,000. Max Homa, Will Zalatoris, and Hideki Matsuyama. If they all finish in the top 10, including ties, that's plus 6,000. Now, in these tournaments, though, it gets even crazier. You can have a bet to hit number 17, the island green that we talked about, on all 4 days. So this player has to hit the green on all 4 days and has to make the cut. You want to parlay, get legs on this. You could do Scotty Scheffler plus 112, Rory plus 130, and Xander Schauffele plus 150. If all those guys parlay and they never go into the drink in 4 days and they all make the cut, you can make yourself some money. They don't have to par the hole. They just have to hit the green.
Which is tough, Jeff. And, I think then you start looking at wedge game, short iron game. And, Rory, not that strong in that situation for some reason. They say maybe over swings. Shockingly, last week, Scheffler, he got that putting advice from Rory McIlroy, Jeff.
Yeah.
My guys and I were talking. We're like, who goes to Rory for putting advice? Turns out Rory maybe knows more than we know, Jeff. The putter, if I was one of those other guys on tour, I would steal Scheffler's putter. I'd throw it into that lake with Chubb's hand and see what happens. Amazing turnaround. I love that 17th. I don't know if this is true, but I kind of remember hearing, I don't know if anyone's ever won that didn't keep it dry on 17 all 4 rounds.
I'll have to look that up.
There's some data behind hitting that green and winning that tournament, and a lot of guys don't. I mean, you could spin that ball off pretty easy, and I mean, we're talking, 10,000 people probably sitting around that hole. That's a lot of stress.
It's also the hole with one of the greatest pars of all time. My favorite golfer of all time, Freddie Couples, puts it in the drink. There's a stroke penalty. The third shot, slam dunk hole in one, which for a par 3.
The greatest swing in golf history, that Freddie Couples, Jeff. I mean, if I could only do it. I'm working on it still. Maybe next year, Jeff, because it ain't working this spring, but we'll see.
There you go. All right, Pez, any final thoughts, or we call it a show?
Well, let's do our homework, Jeff. Let's concentrate on those numbers too, and let's go with data on these tournament bets and bracket building, and rely on the data more than the team even. And that's something that I think people have to start getting back into now that we're getting over the craziness of the regular season of basketball, and enjoy the weekend. Sunday is going to be great. Watching that final 3-4 holes and that players is as good as any major you're ever going to watch. So enjoy it, and we'll be talking next week going into Easter, and we'll be picking winners, Jeff. Can't wait.
Absolutely. All right, Pez, as always, it's been fun. Take it easy. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk next week. See ya.
Sounds good.